Today we're going to be talking about the distributive property. And the distributive property is used to multiply a single term and two or more terms inside a set of parentheses. So, for example, you can take A times the quantity B plus C, and you can multiply A times B, and then multiply A times C. Alright, just written here to solve. Okay. Now, when we're working with the distributive property, there are some different terms that go along with these algebraic expressions that we are going to review. So, we're going to start with some vocabulary. And our first one is a term. A term. A term is a number, variable, product, or quotient in an expression of sums and or differences. All right. So the next vocabulary word we have is a variable. And a variable is a symbol in place of a number you don't yet know. All right. So in this case, our variable would be x. Okay. Would be x. All right. The next term we have is coefficient. And a coefficient is the numerical factor in a term. So in this case, the 7 is the coefficient. So if I had a variable n, my coefficient could be 9. All right? Okay. The next vocabulary word we have is an expression. And an expression has a variable or a combination of variables, numbers, and or operation symbols. It cannot be solved. I know this is a review, we've already talked about this. But for example, 7x plus 3 is an example of an expression because it does not have that equal sign. And last but not least, we have an equation. And an equation shows two math expressions as equal. So, it's often something you solve when we're solving for x or something like that. So we would solve 7x plus 3 equals 17. All right? Now there's one more term that I don't have written down, but those are like terms. Like terms. And an example of a like term could be for example, 6x and 25x. And the reason these are like terms is because you can add them together. They both have x's and they both have coefficients. Even x would be considered a like term, all three of these. So you could add 6x plus 25x plus x, and you would get 32x. Okay? So, for example, these are not like terms because this has an x, this does not have an x. All right? So, going back to the distributive property, we can do a couple practice problems. So in this case, we have 2 times the quantity x plus 3. So I can do 2 times x and then 2 times 3. So I would have 2x plus 6. Okay. Number 2, we have 5 times the quantity n minus 7. All right, minus 7. So in this case, we would do 5n minus 35. You can try number 3 on your own, but I'm going to skip ahead to number 4. Number 4 is unique because it has this negative sign in front. All right, so we're going to have to carry that negative sign while we're multiplying. So we would do negative 6 times a and then we would do negative 6 times 4. And negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. So we could technically write plus negative 24, but that can get confusing. So we can just substitute that with minus 24. Okay? All right. So just for some additional practice, we can solve these different problems. So think about how you would solve each one of these, and I'm just going to slide them through the tunnel. All right, so we have 7 times y plus 3. So 7 times y plus 3 is 7y plus 21. Next one we have 8 times quantity m minus 1, which would be 8m minus 8. All right, the last two, we have 5 times quantity 4x minus 5, so that would be 20x minus 25. All right, and then we have negative 9 times quantity 4 plus 2n, and in that case, it would be negative 36 minus 18n. All right, now going back to our original vocabulary words, these are all examples of expressions. They do not have equal signs, so they are not considered equations yet. Also, if you notice, we are not adding together the problems because they are not like terms. We can multiply a 7 times a y, but we cannot add 7y plus 21. Okay? All right, so that is all you need to know about um, the distributive property and all of the vocabulary terms that go with it.